When did you discover your husband had a second family? The invitation fell out of my grocery bag like a tiny bomb, landing face up on my kitchen counter next to the wilted lettuce and overpriced organic milk. Pink cardboard with glittery unicorns dancing around the edges. Asterisk, you're invited to Emma's 6th birthday party. Asterisk, it proclaimed in that aggressive Comic Sans font that screams suburban mom energy. I almost tossed it in the trash, clearly meant for my neighbor with the same house number on Maple Street instead of Maple Court. But then I saw the bottom line, written in careful purple crayon, asterisk, hope Daddy Mike can come this time. Emma asterisk. My husband Mike doesn't know any 6-year-old named Emma. My hand started shaking as I flipped the invitation over. There, in neat adult handwriting that definitely wasn't mine, asterisk, the Henderson family, 847 Oak Ridge Drive. Saturday, March 18th, 2 p.m. Please let us know if Daddy Mike will be there, the kids have been asking. Asterisk. Daddy Mike. I set the invitation down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. Mike was currently upstairs in his office, doing what he always did on Thursday evenings, catching up on quarterly reports for his sales job. The same job that apparently paid well enough for us to afford our mortgage, 2 car payments, and Emma's weekly piano lessons, but somehow never quite enough for that family vacation we kept postponing. Mom, can I have a snack? My 8-year-old Connor wandered into the kitchen, soccer cleats still muddy from practice. Sure, baby. My voice sounded normal, which was strange because I felt like I was drowning. Apples are in the fridge. He grabbed a juice box instead, typical, and bounded back toward the living room where his little sister Lily was building an elaborate Lego castle. 6 years old, just like this mysterious Emma. Born the same year. I picked up the invitation again, studying every detail. The address was across town, maybe 20 minutes from here. The kind of neighborhood we'd looked at when Connor was born, before Mike convinced me we needed to be more realistic about our budget. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike, asterisk, working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Asterisk. On a Thursday? He never worked late on Thursdays. Thursdays were family dinner nights, the one tradition I'd fought to maintain despite his increasingly erratic schedule. But lately, even those had become negotiable. I walked to the window and peered out at our driveway. Mike's blue Honda Civic was gone. When had he left? I'd been so focused on wrestling groceries and children through the door that I hadn't noticed. My laptop was charging on the breakfast bar. Before I could talk myself out of it, I opened Google Maps and typed in 847 Oak Ridge Drive. Street view showed a tidy colonial with a red front door and a wooden swing hanging from an oak tree. A pink bicycle with training wheels lay on its side in the driveway. The same model bike we'd bought Lily for Christmas, except hers was purple. Mommy? Lily appeared at my elbow, sticky Lego fingers reaching for my arm. Why do you look sad? I closed the laptop and forced a smile. Just tired, sweetheart. What do you say we order pizza tonight instead of cooking? Her face lit up like I'd offered her a unicorn. Really? Can we get extra cheese? Extra cheese, I promised, pulling her into a hug that lasted longer than necessary. Over her head, I stared at that pink invitation. Emma's party was in 3 days. I was definitely going to crash it. That night, after I tucked Connor and Lily into bed with extra stories and longer hugs, I sat in my darkened living room with Mike's laptop balanced on my knees. He'd left it behind in his rush to get to whatever late meeting required his attention on a Thursday evening. I knew his password, our anniversary date, because Mike wasn't creative with security. The laptop opened to his email, and my heart hammered against my ribs as I scrolled through months of messages. Work stuff, mostly. Boring sales reports and client communications that looked legitimate enough. Then I found the folder labeled Personal, Miscellaneous. The first email was from someone named Jessica Henderson, dated 2 weeks ago, asterisk Mike, Emma keeps asking when you're coming to her soccer game. I know you're busy with work, but she made you that drawing and she's been carrying it around everywhere. Can you at least try to make it to her birthday party? The kids miss you. Asterisk. Mike's response, asterisk, I'll do my best, Jess. Things are crazy with the Peterson account. Give Emma a hug from me. Love you both. Asterisk. Both? I scrolled further. More emails. Jessica sending photos of Emma's missing front teeth. Emma's first day of first grade. A little boy named Tyler taking his first steps. Another child, a toddler named Mason, dressed as a dinosaur for Halloween. 3 children. 3. My vision blurred as I clicked through Mike's responses, each one signed with casual affection. Love you guys. Miss you too. Daddy will be home soon. Home. I minimized the email and opened his browser history, my hands trembling so badly I could barely work the trackpad. Multiple searches for Oak Ridge Drive directions. Online banking, not our joint account, but something called Henderson Family Checking. Grocery pickup orders for a different address. Insurance quotes for a 2019 Toyota Sienna. We drove a 2014 Honda Pilot with a broken air conditioner because Mike said we couldn't afford car payments on 2 vehicles. The front door opened, and I slammed the laptop shut. Mike's keys jingled as he hung them on the hook by the door, the same way he'd done every night for 12 years of marriage. Sarah? You still up? In here, I called, shoving the laptop under a throw pillow. My voice cracked slightly. He appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. Still handsome at 36, with those brown eyes that had convinced me to marry him during our senior year of college. The same eyes our children inherited. The same eyes that had apparently convinced Jessica Henderson to marry him too. How was your meeting? I asked. Exhausting. Peterson is being impossible about the quarterly projections. He sat down beside me on the couch, and I caught a whiff of something floral. Not my perfume. You okay? You seem tense. I stared at him, really looked at him. The slight tan line where a wedding ring should be but wasn't. He told me he stopped wearing it because it got caught on equipment at work. The faint smell of baby powder clinging to his shirt sleeve. When was the last time he'd been around a baby? Just tired, I lied. Long day. Mike kissed my forehead, and I forced myself not to flinch. I'm going to grab a shower. Don't stay up too late. As his footsteps faded up the stairs, I pulled out my phone and Googled Jessica Henderson Oak Ridge Drive. Her Facebook profile popped up immediately. Privacy settings apparently weren't her strong suit. The profile picture showed a woman about my age with shoulder-length blonde hair, laughing as she pushed a toddler on a swing. Her relationship status read, married to Mike Henderson. Henderson. Not Sullivan, like me and our kids. He'd given them his real name. I spent the next morning in a coffee shop 3 blocks from Oak Ridge Drive, laptop open, diving deeper into the rabbit hole of my husband's double life. Every discovery felt like another punch to the gut. Jessica's Facebook was a treasure trove of information she'd apparently never thought to hide. Photos dating back 7 years, meaning this wasn't some recent affair. This was a whole separate existence. Mike pushing Tyler on a swing in 2019. Mike teaching Emma to ride that pink bike last summer. Mike holding baby Mason in the hospital, wearing scrubs and a proud father smile I remembered from Lily's birth. The timestamps were what really got me. A photo of Mike at Tyler's baseball game was posted the same Saturday he told me he was visiting his sick mother in Toledo. Another showed him carving a jack-o'-lantern with all 3 Henderson kids on the exact night he'd claimed to be stuck at a work conference in Cleveland. I screenshot everything, my lawyer brain automatically building a case even as my wife's heart shattered. The financial stuff was worse. I'd managed to access our joint banking records, and the pattern was impossible to ignore once I knew what to look for. Regular transfers of $800 every 2 weeks to that Henderson family checking account, exactly half of Mike's take-home pay. Money I'd assumed was going into our savings for Connor's orthodontist bills and Lily's college fund. We had $1,247 in savings. Total. I pulled up Jessica's Instagram next, and found a post from last month that made my blood run cold, so grateful Mike surprised us with a weekend at Cedar Point. The kids were over the moon. Sometimes I don't know how he manages to be such an amazing provider for our family. #blessed, #familytime, #luckiest. Cedar Point. The same trip Mike had promised Connor and Lily for over a year, the one he kept postponing because money was tight. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Kate, still on for lunch tomorrow? You sounded weird when I called yesterday. I had sounded weird. I'd been sitting in my car outside 847 Oak Ridge Drive, watching Mike's Honda pull into the driveway while I told Kate I was just running errands. Watching him lift a toddler out of a car seat while a blonde woman, Jessica, stood on the front porch in yoga pants and a smile. I typed back, rain check? Dealing with some stuff. The coffee shop door chimed, and I looked up to see a woman with 2 young kids heading toward the counter. The little girl was maybe Emma's age, clutching a stuffed unicorn and chattering excitedly about her upcoming birthday party. Her mother looked harried but happy, checking her phone while balancing a diaper bag. That used to be me. That was supposed to still be me. Instead, I was sitting in a coffee shop at 10 a.m. on a Friday, cyberstalking my husband's other wife and trying to figure out how long I'd been living a complete lie. I clicked back to Jessica's Facebook messages. She'd left them open to everyone, apparently trusting her world to stay exactly as neat and contained as she thought it was. The most recent post, from 2 days ago, showed Emma holding a handmade invitation. Emma insisted on hand-delivering birthday invitations around the neighborhood today. She's so excited for Saturday. Now I just have to figure out how to explain to her if Daddy can't make it again. Work has been keeping him away too much lately. Pensive face. 3 laughing face reactions and 2 hearts from friends and relatives. Comments full of sympathy for the hardworking husband and father who was providing so well for his family. Saturday. The party was tomorrow. I closed the laptop and drove home, where Mike was in the kitchen making coffee like it was any other morning. Like he hadn't stolen 12 years of my life and half our children's childhood memories. Morning, babe, he said, kissing my cheek. Sleep better? Much better, I lied, already planning exactly how I was going to burn his world down. I called in sick to work Friday morning, the first time I'd used a personal day for anything other than kid emergencies in 3 years. Mike barely looked up from his phone when I announced I was staying home with a migraine. Want me to pick up anything from the pharmacy? He asked, scrolling through what I now knew were probably texts from Jessica about Emma's party preparations. I'm fine, I said. Just need rest. The moment his Honda disappeared around the corner, I was in his office, tearing through filing cabinets like a woman possessed. Mike was old school about important documents. He kept physical copies of everything in manila folders labeled with his obsessive block handwriting. What I found made my migraine excuse feel prophetic. 2 life insurance policies. One listing me and the kids as beneficiaries for $200,000. Another, tucked behind our mortgage papers, listing Jessica Henderson and her 3 children for $350,000. Same insurance company. Same agent, someone named Robert Chen who'd apparently been helping Mike commit fraud for years. 2 auto insurance policies. 2 homeowners policies. 2 everything. But it was the folder marked legal documents that made me sit down hard in Mike's desk chair. Marriage certificate for Michael James Sullivan and Sarah Elizabeth Morrison, dated June 15, 2012. I remembered that day, outdoor ceremony, my dress got grass stains, Mike's best man gave a toast about finding your one true love. Behind it, marriage certificate for Michael James Henderson and Jessica Marie Caldwell, dated October 8, 2017. He'd married her. Well, married to me. 5 years ago, when I was pregnant with Lily and he kept taking those mysterious weekend business trips to expand his territory. I photographed everything with shaking hands, then kept digging. Credit cards I'd never seen statements for. A second cell phone bill for a number I didn't recognize. Rental agreement for a storage unit across town, monthly fee of $89 that I now realized was one of those mysterious business expenses he claimed on our taxes. The storage unit address was burned into my brain as I drove there an hour later, Mike's spare keys heavy in my palm. Unit 247 was climate-controlled and bigger than Connor's bedroom. Inside, a second nursery's worth of baby equipment, Christmas decorations I didn't recognize, boxes labeled Emma's art projects and Tyler's school stuff and Mason's baby clothes. A whole other family's worth of memories, stored away like seasonal merchandise. In the back corner, I found boxes of financial records going back 7 years. Bank statements showing Mike had been systematically draining our joint accounts to fund the Henderson household. Not just the obvious transfers I'd found, smaller amounts too. 50 here, 100 there. Money I'd assumed was going toward groceries or gas or the million little expenses that come with raising kids. The math was devastating. Conservative estimate, he'd stolen over $80,000 from our family to build his second life. My phone rang. Mike's contact photo, the two of us at Connor's last baseball game, flashed on the screen. Hey, I answered, proud of how normal I sounded. How's the migraine? You sound better. Much better. Where are you? In the background, I could hear children's voices. A woman calling out something about lunch. Still dealing with the Peterson account. Might not be home until late again. On a Friday? You know how it is. Big clients, big demands. A pause. Sarah, are you okay? You've seemed off lately. Off. Like it was my fault for noticing the cracks in his elaborate lie. Just tired, I said. Will you be home for dinner? Probably not. Don't wait up. After he hung up, I sat in that storage unit surrounded by the evidence of my husband's other life and made a decision that scared me almost as much as it thrilled me. I was going to Emma's birthday party tomorrow. But I wasn't going alone. Jessica Henderson needed to know who her husband really was. And Mike needed to face both of his wives in the same room. Time to see how good he was at juggling when both balls were in the air at once. That evening, I did something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. I went through Mike's phone while he slept. He'd left it charging on his nightstand, face down like always. I'd assumed it was a privacy thing, now I knew it was survival instinct. The same passcode he used for everything, Connor's birthday. Even his deception was lazy. 2 messaging apps I'd never seen before. The first one, labeled Family, was full of conversations with Jessica about mundane domestic life. Grocery lists. Pediatrician appointments. Emma's upcoming parent-teacher conference on Tuesday, the same day Mike had told me he'd be in Detroit for a sales presentation. The second app made my stomach drop. Work family. That's what he'd labeled his conversations with me and the kids. Work family. Like we were his side job. I screenshotted everything, my hands trembling as I scrolled through months of carefully compartmentalized lives. Jessica sending photos of Tyler's soccer practice. Me texting about Lily's school play. 2 wives, 2 sets of children, managed through separate apps like he was running parallel businesses. But it was his calendar that broke me. Color-coded entries going back years. Blue 4 JNK activities, Jessica and kids. Red 4 SNK, Sarah and kids. Green 4 travel days between his 2 worlds. The system was meticulous. Obsessive. Last Tuesday, when he'd missed Connor's school concert because of a client dinner, his calendar showed Tyler baseball playoff, 7 p.m. I wanted to wake him up. Wanted to scream until the neighbors called the cops. Instead, I took pictures of everything and crept back to my side of the bed, where I lay staring at the ceiling until dawn. Saturday morning arrived with a kind of perfect spring weather that makes birthday parties magical. Mike was unusually cheerful at breakfast, humming while he made coffee. Big plans today? I asked, buttering Lily's toast with forced casualness. Might meet up with Dave later. Watch the game. Dave was his college roommate who lived in California. What about you and the kids? Library, maybe. Connor has a book report due. He kissed the top of my head, and I caught that floral scent again. Jessica's perfume, probably lingering on his jacket from yesterday's late meeting. Love you guys, he said, grabbing his keys. See you tonight. The Honda pulled out of our driveway at 11:47 a.m. I knew because I was watching from the upstairs window, already dressed in my best jeans and the blue sweater Mike always complimented. If I was going to meet my husband's other wife, I wanted to look like the kind of woman who deserved better than this. Mom, I thought we were going to the library, Connor said, buckling a seatbelt as I loaded them into the Pilot. Change of plans. We're going to a birthday party. Whose birthday? Lily asked, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. A little girl named Emma. She's your age. The drive to Oak Ridge Drive took exactly 18 minutes. I practiced the route twice yesterday, timing everything perfectly. Emma's party started at 2 p.m. If Mike kept to his usual schedule, and his calendar suggested he would, he'd arrive by 2:30. Just enough time for me to introduce myself to Jessica Henderson and her children. The house looked exactly like the Google Street View photos, except now the front yard was decorated with pink balloons and a hand-painted banner reading, Happy 6th Birthday Emma. The same artistic handwriting I'd seen on countless school projects in Mike's storage unit. I parked across the street and checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Lipstick still intact. Wedding ring still on my finger. I decided to keep wearing it for maximum impact. Mom, are you sure we're invited? Connor asked, eyeing the unfamiliar house. Trust me, baby. We belong here more than anyone. The front door opened before I could knock. A woman stepped out, Jessica Henderson in person, prettier than her Facebook photos suggested. Auburn hair, not blonde like I thought from the filtered images. Green eyes that lit up when she saw Connor and Lily. Oh. Are you here for Emma's party? She had a slight southern accent, the kind that made everything sound warm and welcoming. I don't think we've met. I'm Jessica. Sarah, I said, extending my hand. Sarah Sullivan. These are my children, Connor and Lily. If she recognized the name, she didn't show it. Her handshake was firm, friendly. The kind of woman I would have liked under different circumstances. Emma, she called over her shoulder. More friends are here. A little girl bounded to the door, blonde curls, missing front tooth, wearing a pink tutu over leggings. She looked exactly like Lily had at 6, down to the way she bounced on her toes when excited. Are you here for my party? Emma asked, directing her question to Lily. Yes, Lily said shyly. Happy birthday. I'm 6 now. Come see my bounce house. As Emma dragged Lily toward the backyard, Jessica touched my arm. I feel terrible. Did Emma give you an invitation at school? I thought I knew all the parents in her class. Actually, I said carefully, we got one by mistake. Wrong address. But Emma wrote such a sweet note about hoping her daddy could come, and Lily's been wanting to make new friends. Jessica's face softened. Oh, that's Emma for you. She's been talking about Mike coming for weeks. He works so hard, travels constantly for his sales job. Sometimes I think the kids forget what he looks like. Sales must be demanding, I said, following her through a living room decorated with princess balloons. Family photos lined the mantel, Mike teaching Tyler to ride a bike, Mike holding baby Mason, Mike and Jessica on what looked like their honeymoon. What company? Henderson Medical Solutions. He started his own business about 5 years ago, right after we got married. Been growing it ever since. She paused in the kitchen, where elaborate unicorn cake sat on the counter. What does your husband do? The lie came so easily I almost admired it. He's in sales too. Different company, though. Sullivan Marketing Group. Small world. Maybe they know each other. Through the sliding glass door, I watched Connor push Tyler on a tire swing while Lily and Emma giggled in the bounce house. 3 other kids ran around the yard, neighbors or school friends, all calling out birthday wishes to Emma. Your backyard is beautiful, I said, noting the wooden playset that looked exactly like the one Mike had promised Connor 2 Christmases ago. Mike built that last summer. Took him 3 weekends, but he was determined to do it himself. Jessica poured juice into princess-themed cups. He's handy that way. Always building something for the kids. Meanwhile, our kids were still waiting for the playset he'd sketched on a napkin and never mentioned again. A toddler wandered into the kitchen, chocolate frosting smeared across his cheeks. Mama, more cake? After lunch, Mason. Jessica scooped him up, and I saw Mike's eyes staring back at me from a 2-year-old's face. This is my youngest. Just turned 2 last month. March. Mason had turned 2 in March, which meant he was conceived in June 2021. I remembered June 2021 perfectly. Mike had been traveling constantly for a big expansion deal. I'd handled Connor's broken arm and Lily's first day of summer camp entirely alone because my husband was apparently across town making his 3rd baby with another woman. He looks just like his father, I said. Everyone says that. Mike jokes that all 3 kids got his stubborn streak. She set Mason down and glanced at the clock. Speaking of which, he should be here soon. The kids will be so excited. 2:23 p.m. 7 minutes ahead of schedule, but Mike's Honda was already turning into the driveway. Looks like Daddy's here, I said, watching through the window as my husband of 12 years stepped out of his car carrying a wrapped present. Jessica clapped her hands together. Emma. Tyler. Daddy's here. The back door exploded open as Emma and Tyler rushed inside, followed by Connor and Lily who looked confused by the sudden chaos. Daddy. Emma launched herself at Mike, who caught her in a practiced spin. There's my birthday girl. Did you think I'd miss it? Mike looked relaxed. Happy. More present than I'd seen him at home in months. He was wearing the blue button-down I'd given him for Father's Day, paired with khakis I didn't recognize. Mike, Jessica said, moving toward him with Mason balanced on her hip, we have some new friends here. This is Sarah and her kids, Connor and Lily. Time slowed as Mike turned toward me. I watched his face cycle through confusion, recognition, and pure terror in less than 3 seconds. The present dropped from his hands. Sarah. My name came out strangled. What are you? How did you? Surprise, honey, I said sweetly. Small world, isn't it? Jessica looked between us, her smile faltering. Wait. Do you 2 know each other? Oh yes, I said, never taking my eyes off Mike's pale face. We know each other very well. In fact, Mike and I have been married for 12 years. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. Emma was still clinging to Mike's leg, oblivious. Tyler had frozen halfway through unwrapping a juice box. Mason babbled happily from Jessica's arms. That's not possible, Jessica said slowly. Mike and I are married. We've been married for 6 years. I reached into my purse and pulled out both marriage certificates, Mike's and mine, Jessica's and Mike's. Apparently, your husband is quite the multitasker. The marriage certificates fluttered to Jessica's granite countertop like evidence in a courtroom. She stared at them, Mason still balanced on her hip, his chubby fingers reaching for the shiny paper. This is some kind of mistake, Jessica whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Mike, tell her this is a mistake. Mike stood frozen in the doorway, Emma still wrapped around his leg like a pink tutu anchor. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly, and for the first time in our marriage, I saw him completely unable to lie his way out of something. Daddy? Emma looked up at him with those trusting 6-year-old eyes. Why does the lady have papers with your name? I can explain, Mike finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Oh, please do, I said, crossing my arms. I'd love to hear how you explain having 2 wives, 5 children, and exactly $347,000 in life insurance policies that neither of your families knew about. Jessica's face went white. $347,000? Mike, our policy is only for $150. You told me that was all we could afford. That's because Sarah's family gets $200,000, I said, watching Mike flinch with each word. Although I'm betting Jessica's kids get the bigger payout because they have his real last name. Henderson, right? Not Sullivan like he's been lying to me about for over a decade. His real name? Jessica's voice cracked. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her Mike's driver's license photo from the DMV website. Michael James Henderson. Born November 15, 1987. Want to guess what name is on my marriage certificate? Sullivan, Jessica breathed, staring at the screen. Mason started fussing, sensing his mother's distress. He told me Sullivan was his middle name. Said he went by Henderson professionally because it sounded more trustworthy. Tyler had been quiet through this whole exchange, but now he stepped forward. Mom, what's happening? Why is everyone upset? Before Jessica could answer, Connor piped up from where he'd been standing with Lily by the sliding door. Mom, why are you showing that lady Dad's information? And why does she think Dad's name is Henderson? 5 children. All looking between the adults with growing confusion and fear. Emma was still clinging to Mike's leg, but Tyler was starting to back toward his mother. Lily had grabbed Connor's hand, something she only did when she was scared. Kids, Jessica said carefully, why don't you all go play outside for a few more minutes? The adults need to have a grown-up conversation. But it's my birthday, Emma protested. And Daddy just got here. Daddy's not going anywhere, sweetheart, Jessica said, but she was looking at Mike with an expression I recognized. The same look I'd worn for weeks when things stopped adding up. Are you, Mike? Mike finally found his voice. Jess, let me. Don't. The word came out sharp enough to make Mason start crying. Don't you dare Jess me right now. Is it true? Are you married to her too? I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He looked like a man watching his carefully constructed world collapse in real time. Which, I supposed, he was. It's complicated, he said weakly. Complicated? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Mike, you've been stealing money from both our families for years to maintain this lie. You missed Connor's school concert to go to Tyler's baseball game. You gave Jessica's family a bigger life insurance payout while telling me we couldn't afford to increase our coverage. What exactly is complicated about fraud and bigamy? Jessica set Mason down carefully, like she was preparing for a fight. How long? She asked quietly. How long have you been lying to us? Mike looked between us, trapped. 7 years, he whispered. Emma's little voice cut through the tension. Daddy, why is everyone crying? The silence that followed was deafening. Even Mason stopped crying, as if sensing the gravity of what his father had just admitted. 7 years of lies, laid bare in Jessica Henderson's unicorn-decorated kitchen. 7 years, Jessica repeated, her voice hollow. Emma's entire life. Tyler's entire life. You've been lying to us since before Mason was even born. I watched Mike's face crumble as the math hit him too. He'd started this double life when Emma was born, which meant. You were married to me when you married her, I said, the pieces clicking into place. June 2017. I was 6 months pregnant with Lily, and you were off on those weekend business trips planning your wedding to another woman. Sarah, please. No. Jessica stepped forward, and I saw steel beneath her southern sweetness. 7 years of working late. 7 years of missed soccer games and school plays because you were with them. 7 years of me making excuses to our children about why Daddy couldn't be there. Tyler, who'd been listening from the doorway despite Jessica's suggestion to go outside, spoke up with the brutal honesty only a 9-year-old could manage. Is that why you're never here on Sundays? Because you're with him on Sundays? Mike's face answered before his mouth could. Sundays. Our family day, when Mike always claimed he had to catch up on paperwork or meet with West Coast clients. Meanwhile, Jessica's family got their father for Sunday dinners and park visits. The storage unit, I said, another piece falling into place. Unit 247. It's not just hiding Christmas presents, is it? It's where you keep the overflow from both lives. Emma's artwork that couldn't stay in your home office because I might see it. Tyler's baseball trophies that couldn't go on our mantle. Jessica's green eyes sharpened. What storage unit? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken yesterday. Boxes labeled with her children's names, stacked next to Christmas decorations I'd never seen, furniture that belonged to neither household. He's got 7 years' worth of your family's memories locked away in a climate-controlled unit across town, I said. Like evidence he was hiding from a crime scene. Because it is a crime scene, Jessica said quietly, bouncing Mason absently as he fussed. This is fraud, isn't it? The insurance policies, the bank accounts. Mike, how much money have you stolen from us? Before Mike could answer, my phone started ringing. Connor's school, according to the caller ID. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Sullivan? This is Principal Martinez. I have Connor's emergency contact form here, and I noticed something unusual. You have Michael Sullivan listed as father, but our system shows he enrolled Connor under the name Michael Henderson 3 years ago when you switched schools. Could you clarify which name we should have on file? The room spun. What did you say? Michael Henderson. He signed all the enrollment paperwork in 2021. Said there had been a legal name change for business purposes, but we never received the updated documentation. I hung up and stared at Mike, who somehow managed to look even more pale. You enrolled our son in school under your fake name. You've been using Henderson as your legal name for 3 years, which means our marriage isn't legal anymore, Jessica finished, understanding immediately. If you legally changed your name to Henderson and married me under that name, then your marriage to Sarah as Michael Sullivan is void. Unless, I said, my lawyer brain kicking into overdrive, he never legally changed his name at all. In which case, his marriage to you is the fraud. Emma tugged on Mike's pants leg again, her birthday tiara sitting crooked on her blonde curls. Daddy, I don't understand. Are you not my daddy anymore? The question broke something in Jessica's face. She knelt down to Emma's level, smoothing her daughter's hair with trembling hands. You're still our Emma, sweetheart. Daddy made some mistakes that grown-ups have to fix. But it's my birthday, Emma whispered, tears starting to flow. I just wanted Daddy at my birthday. I looked at my own children, Connor standing protectively next to Lily, both of them staring at their father like he'd transformed into a stranger. Which, I supposed, he had. Tyler, Jessica said softly, can you take Emma and the other kids to the backyard? Just for a few more minutes. As the children reluctantly filed outside, I heard Emma asking Tyler, why does that lady know Daddy's real name? And why does her little girl look just like me? The backyard fell quiet except for the creak of the tire swing and Emma's muffled sniffles. Through the sliding glass door, I could see Tyler awkwardly patting his sister's shoulder while Connor pushed Lily gently on the swing set Mike had built for his other family. Jessica closed the door and turned back to us, her composure hanging by a thread. The children can't hear this conversation, she said firmly. Whatever else you've done, Mike, they don't deserve to have their world destroyed on Emma's birthday. Their world is already destroyed, I said, but I kept my voice low. The question is how much more damage he's done that we don't know about yet. Mike sank into one of Jessica's kitchen chairs, his head in his hands. I never meant for it to get this complicated. Complicated? Jessica's voice rose, then caught herself, glancing toward the backyard. You married 2 women. You have 5 children who think you're their father. You've been stealing money and lying about your identity for 7 years. Which part of that felt simple to you? I pulled out the bank statements I printed from his secret files. Let's start with the money, since that's easiest to quantify. Mike, you've transferred $83,400 from our joint accounts to Jessica's family over the past 7 years. Money I thought was going to our kids' college funds. Jessica's face went ashen. 83,000? Mike, where did you tell me that money was coming from? Bonuses, he whispered. Sales commissions. I told you business was good. Business was good, I said bitterly. You were running a con on two families simultaneously. Double the income, double the life insurance, double the tax deductions for dependents. I shuffled through the papers. Speaking of taxes, Jessica, did you know Mike's been claiming Connor and Lily as dependents on his Henderson tax returns? That's impossible. We file jointly every year. With a CPA named Morris Chin. Want to guess who does our taxes? Robert Chin. Morris's brother. I showed her the business cards I'd found in Mike's wallet. The whole family's in on it. They've been helping him maintain two separate financial identities for years. Mike finally looked up, his face haggard. The Chins aren't criminals. They just thought. They thought what? That bigamy was a creative tax strategy? I slammed the papers down on Jessica's granite counter. Mike, this isn't some paperwork mix-up. This is organized fraud. You've been systematically stealing from both families to fund a lifestyle neither of us could afford alone. Jessica was quiet for a long moment, staring at the evidence scattered across her kitchen counter. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. The house down payment. 3 years ago, you came home with $15,000 in cash for our down payment. Said you'd gotten a huge commission from that medical equipment contract. That was Connor's college fund, I realized, the pieces clicking together. March 2021. You cleaned out his education savings account and told me there'd been a bank error. Said it would take weeks to sort out. It was a loan, Mike said weakly. I was going to pay it back. With what money? Jessica demanded. Mike, I've seen our tax returns. Henderson Medical Solutions barely breaks even most years. Where exactly was this magical payback money going to come from? Through the window, I watched Emma showing Lily how to do a cartwheel, their identical blonde ponytails bouncing. Two little girls who could have been sisters, born 6 months apart to women who never knew the other existed. There's more, I said quietly. Jessica, when's the last time you called Mike's office? His office? She looked confused. He works from home mostly. Travels to clients. Henderson Medical Solutions doesn't have an office. I called the number on his business cards yesterday. It goes to a Google Voice account that forwards to his cell phone. I pulled out more printouts. The business license expired in 2020. He never renewed it. Jessica gripped the counter. Then what has he been doing for work? He does work, Mike said desperately. I have clients. Real clients. I operate under both names depending on the contract. Which is fraud, I said. Mike, you can't just use whatever identity is convenient for a business deal. That's not how legal names work. My phone buzzed with a text. Then another. I glanced down and felt my blood run cold. Oh, this is perfect, I muttered, showing them the screen. My sister Kate is here. She followed my GPS because she was worried when I didn't show up for lunch and wasn't answering my calls. Through the front window, I could see Kate's red SUV pulling up behind my Honda. She was already getting out, her face set in that determined expression that meant she was prepared to stage an intervention. Sarah? Jessica looked panicked. How many people know about this? Just Kate. She's been telling me for months that something was off about Mike's schedule. I watched my sister march up the front walkway. She's also a family law attorney. Mike's head shot up. You brought a lawyer? I didn't bring anyone. But since she's here. I moved toward the front door. Kate's handled plenty of bigamy cases. She'll know exactly what kind of legal mess you created. The doorbell rang before I could reach it. Jessica looked around her kitchen, evidence of Mike's double life scattered across every surface, her daughter's birthday party continuing in the backyard, her husband sitting at her table looking like a man facing execution. This is not how Emma's 6th birthday was supposed to go, she said, and for the first time since I dropped my bombshell, she sounded like she might cry. I opened the door to find Kate holding a bottle of wine and wearing her concerned sister face. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison Sullivan, what the hell is going on? Your GPS showed you at some random address, you're not answering calls, and... She trailed off, looking past me to where Mike sat at a stranger's kitchen table. Why is your husband here? And why does he look like he's about to throw up? Kate, I said, stepping aside to let her in, meet Jessica Henderson. Mike's other wife. Kate's wine bottle hit Jessica's hardwood floor with a crash that seemed to echo through the entire house. Purple liquid spread across the white oak like spilled blood, and for a moment, none of us moved. Other wife? Kate's voice came out as a squeak. She looked from Mike to Jessica to me, her lawyer brain visibly struggling to process what I'd just said. Sarah, what do you mean other wife? I mean exactly what it sounds like, I said, stepping over the wine puddle. Mike's been married to both of us. Jessica for 6 years, me for 12. He's got 3 kids here, 2 with us, and approximately 7 years worth of lies holding it all together. Kate sank onto Jessica's cream-colored sofa without being invited, staring at Mike like he'd grown a second head. Michael James Sullivan, please tell me this is some kind of elaborate joke. Henderson, Jessica corrected quietly. He's Michael Henderson here. Different last name, different life insurance policies, different everything. Jesus Christ. Kate pulled out her phone. Sarah, how long have you known? Since Thursday. Found a birthday invitation meant for this address. I gestured around Jessica's living room, which looked like something from a home decorating magazine. Apparently Emma, that's his 6-year-old daughter here, wanted Daddy Mike to finally show up for something. Through the back window, I could see the kids still playing, but Emma kept looking toward the house with worried eyes. Even at 6, she could sense the adult world cracking apart around her. Mike, Kate said, switching into attorney mode, I need you to understand how serious this is. Bigamy is a felony in Ohio. 3rd degree, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And that's before we get into the financial fraud aspect. Mike's face somehow went even paler. Kate, I can explain. No. Kate held up her hand. Don't say another word without a lawyer present. Seriously. Anything you say right now can and will be used against you in criminal court. Jessica had been quiet, cleaning up wine and glass with mechanical precision, but now she looked up sharply. Criminal court? What about the children? What happens to our kids if Mike goes to prison? That depends on a lot of factors, Kate said gently. Sarah, have you documented everything? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Bank records, insurance policies, marriage certificates, storage unit contents, business license fraud. Plus Jessica and I have been comparing notes for the past hour. Storage unit? Kate scrolled through the images. Mike, how much money are we talking about here? Over 80,000 stolen from our accounts, I said before Mike could answer. Transferred to Jessica's family checking account over 7 years. Plus he's been double claiming all 5 kids as tax dependents through 2 different CPAs who happen to be brothers. Kate whistled low. The Chin brothers? I know them. They're about to lose their licenses when the IRS figures this out. She looked at Jessica. Have you contacted your CPA yet? I didn't even know there was a problem until an hour ago, Jessica said, her southern accent thickening with stress. Morris Chen has been doing our taxes since Mike and I got married. Everything seemed legitimate. Because Mike's been playing both families against each other, I said. Jessica, remember that medical equipment contract he landed 3 years ago? The one that paid for your house down payment? The $15,000 commission, yes. That was Connor's college fund. Connor. Mike emptied our son's education account and told me it was a bank error. Jessica dropped the wine-stained paper towel she'd been holding. Our down payment came from your 8-year-old's college fund? Along with Lily's orthodontist savings, our emergency fund, and probably Christmas money going back to 2018, I said. Kate, I found records showing systematic transfers every 2 weeks for years. Kate was taking notes on her phone, her expression growing grimmer with each detail. This is organized, premeditated fraud. Sarah, Jessica, you need to understand, this isn't just a messy divorce situation. This is federal crime territory. A soft knock on the sliding door interrupted us. Connor stood outside, looking worried. Mom? Emma's asking why everyone looks sad at her birthday party. And Lily wants to know if we can have cake soon. The question hung in the air like a challenge. 5 children outside, waiting for adults to explain why their world had just imploded. Emma still in her birthday tiara, probably wondering why her special day had turned into whispered conversations and broken glass. We have to tell them something, Jessica said quietly. I can't let Emma think her birthday is ruined because of adult problems. The birthday is the least of our problems, Kate said bluntly. Jessica, Sarah, you both need to get to banks immediately. Today. Secure whatever accounts you can access and start documenting every fraudulent transaction. Mike finally spoke up, his voice hoarse. The kids don't deserve this. Whatever happens to me, Emma and Tyler and Mason, they're innocent. Connor and Lily too. Can't we figure out some way to protect them from the fallout? Should have thought about that before you decided to play house with 2 families, I said coldly. But looking at Emma's anxious face through the window, I felt a stab of guilt. None of this was her fault. You're right, Jessica said quietly, watching her daughter through the glass. The children are innocent in this. She turned to Kate. As an attorney, what's the best way to protect them legally? All 5 of them? Kate was quiet for a moment, still taking notes. Honestly? You need to move fast on the financial side. Mike, which name is on the mortgage here? Henderson, Mike mumbled. And Sarah, your house? Sullivan. Both are names on the deed. I felt sick thinking about it. Kate, if the Sullivan identity is fraudulent, what happens to our house? Our kids' stability? That's what we need to figure out. Mike, I need a straight answer. What's your actual legal name? The one on your social security card, your birth certificate? Mike was quiet so long I thought he might not answer. Finally, Henderson. Michael James Henderson. I changed it legally from Sullivan when I was 19. Fresh start after my dad died. The room went dead silent. Jessica and I stared at each other, both realizing what this meant. So you've been using a false identity with me for 12 years, I whispered. Our entire marriage is based on a lie about who you even are. Sarah, I can explain. No. Kate cut him off again. Mike, stop talking. Seriously. She turned to us. This changes everything. If Henderson is his legal name, then Sarah's marriage might not be legally valid. Which means Jessica is the legal wife, and Connor and Lily are illegitimate, I finished, the word tasting like poison. My children are illegitimate because their father has been committing identity fraud for over a decade. Through the window, Connor was helping Emma onto the tire swing, completely unaware that his legal status had just been thrown into question. My sweet, responsible 8-year-old who did his homework without being asked and saved his allowance for Lily's birthday presents. There has to be something, Jessica said desperately. Kate, in family law, isn't there some protection for children in situations like this? There are protections, yes. But this is complicated by the financial fraud aspect. Kate scrolled through her notes. Sarah, when did Mike start using Sullivan with you? College. We met sophomore year, 2010. He introduced himself as Mike Sullivan from day one. I thought back, trying to remember details. He said his family was from Michigan. Divorced parents. I never met them because his mother died junior year and his father had died in high school. Convenient story, Kate muttered. All the potential witnesses dead. Mike, where are you actually from? Toledo, he said quietly. Born and raised Henderson. My parents divorced when I was 16, and I lived with my mom until she died. That part was true. But you changed your name and invented a whole backstory, I said. Why? Mike looked at his hands. Fresh start. My dad left debts when he died. Creditors were coming after anyone with a Henderson name. I figured Sullivan was clean, no baggage. So you've been running from debt since you were 19, Kate said. That explains a lot about your financial management skills. My phone buzzed with a text from our bank, unusual account activity detected. Please contact us immediately. I showed the screen to Kate. That can't be good. Mike, Kate said sharply, what did you do today? Before you came here? He looked like he might be sick. I transferred some money. Emergency fund. I thought, if this all came out, I wanted to make sure the kids would be okay. Which kids? Jessica and I asked simultaneously. All of them. I opened an account this morning. Put aside money for college funds, emergency expenses. I wasn't trying to run or hide anything, I just wanted to protect them from the financial mess. Kate was already dialing. Sarah, give me your bank information. We need to stop whatever he did before it makes this worse. As she talked to the bank, I watched Emma finally convince Connor to get in the bounce house with her and Lily. 3 kids who could have been siblings, laughing together while their parents' world collapsed in the kitchen. The account's been frozen, Kate announced, hanging up. Mike moved $23,000 this morning into an account under the name Henderson Sullivan Family Trust. Which, by the way, isn't a legal entity. 23,000? I stared at him. Mike, that was everything. Our entire savings account. I was trying to protect it, he said desperately. If criminal charges get filed, they might freeze everything. I wanted to make sure there was something left for the kids. Jessica sank into a chair. How much money do we actually have left between both families? The question hung in the air like a death sentence, because I was pretty sure none of us wanted to know the answer. Kate hung up from another phone call and turned to us with the expression I'd learned to dread, her courtroom face when the verdict was about to get ugly. I've got good news and catastrophic news, she said, setting her phone on Jessica's granite counter next to the scattered evidence of Mike's double life. Which do you want first? Catastrophic, Jessica and I said in unison. We've been tag teaming this nightmare for 2 hours now, might as well stay coordinated. The Henderson Sullivan Family Trust that Mike created this morning? The bank flagged it as potential money laundering because he used 2 different social security numbers to open it. Mike's real SSN under Henderson, and apparently a fake one he's been using as Sullivan for over a decade. My stomach dropped. A fake social security number? Mike, what the hell? It's not fake, he said quickly. It's my brother's. Danny died when we were kids, and when I needed to establish credit as Sullivan, I used his number. He wasn't using it anymore. Kate stared at him like he'd just confessed to murder. Michael, you've been using a dead person's social security number for 12 years. That's identity theft, tax fraud, and about 6 other federal crimes I can think of off the top of my head. Danny was my twin, Mike said desperately, as if that made it better. We looked identical. It wasn't like I was stealing from some stranger. You were stealing from the federal government. Kate's voice rose, then she caught herself, glancing toward the backyard where the kids were still playing. Mike, this isn't some paperwork mix-up. You've been filing taxes, getting credit cards, taking out loans under a dead person's identity. The IRS is going to crucify you. Jessica had gone completely pale. Our mortgage, she whispered. Mike, please tell me our mortgage is under your real name. The silence that followed was answer enough. Jesus Christ, Kate muttered, making more notes. Okay, Jessica, your house might be safe since Henderson is his legal name. Sarah. She looked at me with pity. Your mortgage is fraudulent. The bank can call the entire loan due immediately once they figure this out. Our house, I said numbly. Connor and Lily's home. We could lose their home because of this. Through the window, I watched Connor teaching Tyler how to throw a football while the girls took turns on the swing. He had no idea his bedroom, his school district, his entire stable world was built on his father's criminal foundation. Wait, I said, a horrible thought occurring to me. Kate, if Mike's been using Danny's social security number, what happens to our kids' birth certificates? Their social security numbers? Kate's expression told me I'd hit on something she'd been dreading to mention. That's complicated. Connor and Lily's birth certificates list Michael Sullivan as their father, using what's essentially a fraudulent identity. But they're still his biological children, Jessica said. That has to count for something legally. It does, but their documentation is compromised. They might need new birth certificates, amended records. It's fixable, but it's going to be expensive and time-consuming. Kate looked at both of us. And that assumes Mike cooperates fully with authorities, which brings us to the good news. There's actually good news in this disaster? I asked. The bank manager I just spoke to is willing to work with both families on the fraud recovery, provided Mike makes a full confession and helps trace every fraudulent transaction. They'd rather get their money back than prosecute if possible. Mike's head shot up. What does that mean exactly? It means you cooperate completely, and I mean everything, Mike. Every fake account, every forged document, every lie you've told for the past 12 years. In exchange, they'll pursue civil recovery instead of pressing criminal charges. And the bigamy? Jessica asked. Kate grimaced. That's still a problem. Ohio doesn't typically prosecute bigamy cases unless there's aggravating factors, but the financial fraud makes this different. However, she paused, if Mike voluntarily dissolves one of the marriages and makes full financial restitution to both families, the prosecutor might be willing to negotiate. I felt like I'd been punched. Dissolves one of the marriages? Kate, we have 2 kids together. Sarah, legally, your marriage might not be valid anyway because of the identity fraud. Mike married you under a false name using stolen identification. A judge could void it regardless. The sliding door opened, and Emma poked her head in, still wearing her birthday tiara but looking worried. Mama, we're hungry. And Connor asked if his daddy is in trouble, because he looks really sad. 5 pairs of adult eyes turned toward the window, where Tyler was trying to distract Lily while Connor stood apart, clearly picking up on the tension radiating from the house. Sweetheart, Jessica said gently, let's get everyone some cake. It's still your special day. As Emma brightened and ran back to announce cake time, Jessica turned to us with fierce determination. Whatever we decide about marriages and legal consequences, those kids are going to have the best birthday party we can manage. They've been through enough today. Agreed, I said, surprising myself. But Mike? I looked at my husband, or whatever he legally was to me now. After Emma blows out her candles, you're going to sit down with all 5 of those children and figure out how to explain why their father is a criminal. Because Kate and I are going to be too busy figuring out how to save their futures from the mess you've made. Mike nodded miserably as Jessica began cutting unicorn cake, and I realized this was probably the last normal moment any of our children would have for a very long time. The cake ceremony was surreal, 5 children singing happy birthday to Emma while 3 adults smiled and clapped like our world hadn't just imploded. Mike held Mason on his lap, the 2-year-old clapping sticky hands while chocolate frosting smeared across Mike's blue shirt. The same shirt I bought him last Father's Day, back when I thought I knew who he was. Emma made her wish and blew out 6 princess candles in one breath. What did you wish for? Lily asked, leaning close like they were already best friends. I wished for Daddy to come to more of my parties, Emma said innocently, then looked up at Mike with those trusting eyes. Will you, Daddy? Mike's face crumpled slightly before he recovered. I'll try my best, sweetheart. Tyler, who'd been quiet through most of the party, suddenly spoke up. Dad, why do Connor and Lily call you Sullivan? And why does that lady have papers with both our names on them? The question I'd been dreading. 9-year-old Tyler was too smart to miss the inconsistencies, and Connor was nodding like he'd been wondering the same thing. That's grown-up stuff, Jessica said quickly, but Tyler persisted. Is it because you work for 2 different companies? Like how Uncle Dave works at the bank but also drives for Uber. Mike seized on the explanation like a lifeline. Something like that, buddy. Sometimes adults have to use different names for work. But why do Connor and Lily look so much like us? Emma asked, studying Lily's face with the intense curiosity only 6-year-olds possessed. She has the same freckles as me. And Connor has Tyler's exact nose. I watched Jessica's expression shift as Emma's observation hit home. She looked from Lily to Emma, then from Connor to Tyler, seeing what I'd noticed the moment I walked into this house. They look like us because there are. Tyler started, then stopped, his 9-year-old brain working through genetics he shouldn't have to understand yet. They're your half-siblings, Connor said quietly, and the entire backyard went silent except for Mason's babbling as he played with cake frosting. Kate, who'd been watching from the kitchen window, stepped outside. Connor, what made you say that? My friend Jake has half-siblings from his dad's first marriage. They have different moms but the same dad, so they look alike but not exactly the same. Connor looked between Mike and me with those serious 8-year-old eyes. That's what this is, isn't it? Dad has 2 families. The adult conspiracy of silence cracked wide open. Emma's lower lip started trembling. Does that mean we have to share Daddy? We already do share him, Tyler said with brutal honesty. That's why he's never here for dinner anymore. He's having dinner with them. Jessica sat down hard on her patio chair, pulling Emma onto her lap. Kids, this is very complicated. No, it's not, Tyler interrupted, and I realized he'd inherited his father's ability to cut through lies. It's actually pretty simple. Dad married both of you and had kids with both of you, and now everyone found out. Lily started crying, quiet, confused tears that made my heart break. She climbed onto my lap and whispered, Mommy, are we in trouble? Is that why everyone's upset? No, baby, I said, smoothing her hair. You and Connor aren't in trouble. The adults made some mistakes, but you 2 are perfect. What kind of mistakes? Connor asked, because of course my responsible eldest child needed specifics. Mike finally found his voice. I made promises to people that I couldn't keep. And I wasn't honest about some important things. Like having 2 wives? Tyler asked bluntly. Tyler, Jessica warned, but he continued. Mom, I'm 9. I understand what's happening. Dad has 2 wives and 5 kids and now everyone's mad because you weren't supposed to have 2 wives at the same time. Emma looked up at Jessica with wide eyes. Is Tyler right? Are we not allowed to have Connor and Lily as our brother and sisters? Before anyone could answer, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Westside Elementary, Connor School. I have to take this, I said, stepping away from the group. Mrs. Sullivan? This is Vice Principal Thompson. We've had an issue with Connor's emergency contact information, and when we tried to verify his father's employment, we discovered some discrepancies. Could you come in Monday morning to update his records? My blood ran cold. What kind of discrepancies? Well, Michael Sullivan isn't listed as an employee with Henderson Medical Solutions, but Michael Henderson is. And our insurance system shows conflicting social security numbers. It's probably just a clerical error, but we need to sort it out for our files. I hung up and looked at Mike, who was still trying to explain family dynamics to 5 confused children. The school knows, I announced. Connor's school just called about discrepancies in your employment and social security information. Kate cursed under her breath. It's starting to unravel everywhere. Mike, how many institutions have conflicting information about your identity? Before he could answer, Jessica's phone buzzed with a text. She read it and went pale. Tyler's soccer coach wants to confirm carpool information for next week's tournament. He's asking whether to contact Mr. Henderson or Mr. Sullivan because the team roster has Tyler listed as Henderson but the emergency contact says Sullivan. The net was tightening around Mike's double life from every direction, and our children were about to become collateral damage in ways we hadn't even imagined yet. The dominoes kept falling. Within an hour of the school calls, Jessica's phone was buzzing constantly. Tyler's pediatrician office, asking to clarify insurance beneficiary information. Emma's dance studio, wondering why their credit card on file was under Henderson but the pickup authorization listed Sullivan. Even Mason's daycare called, confused about conflicting emergency contact forms. It's like a dam burst, Kate muttered, watching us field call after call. Mike, exactly how many places have you mixed up your identities? Mike sat at Jessica's kitchen table, surrounded by 5 children who'd given up pretending to play outside. They were all clustered around us now, sensing that whatever was happening would determine their immediate futures. I tried to keep them separate, he said weakly. Henderson for Jessica's family, Sullivan for Sarah's. But sometimes I forgot which name I'd used where, especially for emergency contacts and school forms. Forgot? I stared at him in disbelief. Mike, you forgot which fake identity you were using for our children's safety information? Emma tugged on Jessica's sleeve. Mama, why is everyone calling? Is it because of Daddy's name thing? Before Jessica could answer, Connor spoke up with that matter-of-fact tone he used when he'd figured something out. The grown-ups are realizing that Dad lied to a lot of people, so now all those people are calling to ask questions. What kind of lies? Lily asked, still perched on my lap. Tyler, who'd been quietly listening to our phone conversations, looked at his parents with growing understanding. Dad, did you lie about your job too? Because that soccer coach said Henderson Medical Solutions doesn't have a listed phone number. The room went dead silent. Even Kate stopped taking notes to stare at Mike. There is no Henderson Medical Solutions, is there? Jessica said quietly. Mike, what do you actually do for work? Mike's face answered before his mouth could. I do sales consulting. Independent contractor work. I use the company name to sound more established. So you've been lying to clients too, Kate said, adding another note to her growing list. Mike, every fake business transaction is fraud. Every contract you've signed under a non-existent company. My phone rang again. This time it was our insurance agent. Sarah, I need to ask you about a claim we received. Michael Sullivan filed for coverage on a 2019 Toyota Sienna, but our records show you own a 2014 Honda Pilot. Can you clarify which vehicle should be covered under your policy? I hung up and looked across Jessica's driveway, where a silver Toyota Sienna sat next to Mike's Honda. The minivan is yours? I asked Jessica. Mike bought it last year. Said business was good enough for us to upgrade. Jessica's voice was hollow. How much of our life has been paid for with money stolen from your children? Before I could answer, Kate's phone started ringing. She glanced at the screen and frowned. It's my office. On a Saturday. She stepped outside to take the call. Connor, who'd been unusually quiet, suddenly looked up at Mike with those serious eyes. Dad, are you going to jail? The question hit like a physical blow. Mason started fussing in his high chair, picking up on the tension. Emma's birthday tiara had slipped sideways, and she looked like she might start crying again. I don't know, buddy, Mike said honestly. I made some really big mistakes, and now I have to figure out how to fix them. What happens to us if you go to jail? Tyler asked, because 9-year-olds cut straight to the heart of everything. Your moms will take care of you, Mike said, but even as he said it, I could see the flaw in that logic. Jessica and I looked at each other across the kitchen, both thinking the same thing. How were we supposed to take care of 5 children when Mike had systematically destroyed both families' financial stability? Kate came back inside, her face grim. That was my law partner. Mike, there's a federal investigator asking questions about identity fraud connected to your social security number. Someone's already reported you. The federal investigator arrived 45 minutes later, just as Emma was opening her last birthday present, a dollhouse from Mike that he'd probably bought with money stolen from Lily's orthodontist fund. Agent Patricia Morse was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes that seemed to take in the whole scene at once, 5 confused children, 2 devastated wives, 1 man who looked like he'd aged a decade in 6 hours, and my sister frantically organizing evidence on Jessica's dining room table. Mr. Henderson, she said, showing her credentials, or do you prefer Sullivan? I'm Agent Morse with the Treasury Inspector General. We need to discuss some irregularities with Social Security Administration records. Mike's shoulders sagged in complete defeat. Henderson. My legal name is Michael James Henderson. Good. That makes this easier. Agent Morse glanced at the children, who were all staring at her with wide eyes. Is there somewhere private we could talk? Kids, Jessica said gently, why don't you take Emma's new dollhouse up to her room? All of you can play together. As they reluctantly headed upstairs, Tyler carrying Mason, Connor helping Lily with the dollhouse pieces, Agent Morse spread files across Jessica's coffee table. Mr. Henderson, we've been tracking fraudulent tax filings connected to Daniel Henderson's social security number for 3 years. Daniel died in 1998 at age 7, yet someone has been filing tax returns, opening credit accounts, and claiming dependents under his identity since 2012. That was me, Mike said quietly. Danny was my twin brother. I started using his number in college when I couldn't get financial aid under my own name because of my father's debt. 23 years of identity theft, Agent Morse said matter-of-factly. But here's the interesting part, you've also been filing legitimate returns under your real name, claiming a completely different set of dependents. 5 children total, claimed twice across 2 identities. Kate leaned forward. What's the federal government's position on prosecution? Agent Morse looked between Jessica and me. Normally, this would be a straightforward criminal case. Multiple federal violations, systematic fraud over decades. But... She paused, studying the evidence Kate had organized. Mr. Henderson, you've created a situation where criminal prosecution would primarily harm 5 innocent children and 2 victims of your deception. What does that mean exactly? I asked. It means the Treasury Department is more interested in recovery than punishment, provided Mr. Henderson cooperates fully. Agent Morse pulled out a thick folder. We're prepared to offer a plea agreement. Full restitution to both families, complete financial disclosure, dissolution of all fraudulent accounts and identities, and 5 years supervised probation. No prison time? Jessica asked. Not if he cooperates completely and makes full restitution within 2 years. Agent Morse looked directly at Mike. But this is a one-time offer. Any deception, any hidden assets, any failure to comply, and you'll face the full federal prosecution. Mike nodded frantically. Yes. Whatever you need. I just want to protect my kids, all of them. Agent Morse spent the next 2 hours walking us through the recovery process. Mike would liquidate everything, the storage unit contents, both houses if necessary, every asset accumulated through fraud. The money would be divided between our families based on what he'd stolen from each. As she packed up her files, Agent Morse looked at Jessica and me with something like sympathy. This isn't how anyone imagined their lives would turn out. But those kids upstairs? They're going to be okay. You're both strong women, and they have each other now. 6 months later, I sat in the mediator's office as Mike signed the final dissolution papers. Jessica and I had decided that maintaining the fraudulent marriage wasn't worth the legal complications. We'd work together as co-parents to Mike's 5 children, regardless of which woman had the legal marriage certificate. The kids were thriving. Connor and Tyler had become genuine brothers, and Emma and Lily were inseparable. Even Mason had bonded with his older siblings during our awkward but necessary joint custody arrangements. Mike was living in a studio apartment across town, working legitimate sales jobs under his real name, every penny monitored by federal supervision. It would take him years to pay back what he'd stolen, but for the first time in our relationship, I knew exactly where every dollar was going. Any regrets? Jessica asked as we walked to our cars. I thought about it, watching our kids play together in the mediator's waiting room. About marrying him? Yes. About finding out the truth? Never. Because the truth, however devastating, had given all of us something Mike's lies never could, a real future, built on an honest foundation, where 5 children could grow up knowing exactly who they were and where they came from. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a family is having all its secrets exposed on a 6-year-old's birthday.